They call me the cursed songbird, the Omega, whose voice kills rather than heals. For 5 years, I've watched them chain the Alpha King to silver posts every full moon as his wolf tears him apart from the inside. And tonight, they'll discover that the voice everyone fears is the only thing that can save him. The Grand Harvest Hall buzzes with nervous energy as unmated Omegas gather for the autumn pairing. Our pack's most sacred tradition. I shouldn't be here. The council made that abundantly clear 3 months ago when they officially declared me unfit for mating consideration. But attendance is mandatory for all unmated wolves between 18 and 30, even the broken ones like me. I press myself against the cold limestone pillar near the servants' entrance, making my small frame even smaller. My fingers unconsciously trace the leather cord around my throat, a gift from my grandmother before she passed, before everything fell apart. She used to say my voice was a gift from the moon goddess herself, that it carried healing in every note. She was wrong. So terribly wrong. The hall shimmers with candlelight and expectation. Beta families parade their daughters in jewel-toned silks, each Omega more radiant than the last. Alphas stand in powerful clusters, their presence filling the space with an electric charge that makes my skin prickle. They're assessing, choosing, claiming their futures with hungry eyes and confident smiles. My name is Rivka Ashenmore, and I haven't sung a single note in 5 years. Not since the night of the fire. Not since my voice raised in what I thought was a healing song during my mother's difficult labor, shattered every window in our cottage, and sent flames roaring through the thatched roof. My mother survived. My infant brother did not. The midwife went deaf in one ear. The healers called it a catastrophic manifestation of untrained sonic magic. The pack called it what it was, a curse. My voice, instead of carrying a traditional Omega gift of soothing and healing, had somehow twisted into something destructive, dangerous, uncontrollable. I haven't spoken above a whisper since. Every word measured, every sound carefully monitored. The council ruled that I was never to sing again, never to raise my voice in anger or joy or grief. One more incident, they warned, and I would be exiled beyond pack borders. So here I stand, the silent shadow at the edge of a celebration, watching futures being written while mine has already been crossed out in red ink. Grandmother's cottage on the eastern boundary, the one that somehow survived that terrible night, is where I'll return tonight, just as I have every night for 5 years. Alone, the pairing master calls the first name. Celeste Nightbrook. A stunning Omega with silver blonde hair steps forward, and within seconds, 3 alphas move to claim her attention. The hall erupts in polite applause. One by one, names echo through the vaulted space. One by one, futures are sealed with ceremonial declarations and ribbon binding. Then he enters. Alpha King Davos Ironfang doesn't walk into the hall, he commands it. The air itself seems to shift, to bow. He's younger than most kings, barely 30, with dark bronze skin and eyes like molten amber. Scars trace his jaw and disappear beneath his formal black leathers, evidence of battles won and wars survived. But it's not his physical presence that makes my breath catch. It's the haunted look in those amber eyes. The way he surveys the room with the detached interest of someone already resigned to disappointment. They say he's attended 12 pairings in the 6 years since he took the crown. 12 ceremonies where he's left alone. They also say other things, whispered things. That every full moon, his wolf takes over completely. That he becomes a mindless, raging beast that even silver and spelled chains can barely contain. That he's slowly losing himself to the madness, month by month, moon by moon. That the kingdom needs a Luna, not just for tradition, but for survival, someone whose Omega magic might anchor his fracturing sanity. 20 alphas have tried. 20 carefully selected, powerful Omegas, with the strongest healing and soothing abilities in the kingdom. All failed. The last one, they say, barely escaped with her life when his wolf broke free during a private moon ritual. For just one heartbeat, his sweeping gaze snags on mine. The world narrows to that single point of connection. His amber eyes, ancient, exhausted, utterly alone, lock with my pale green ones. I see recognition there, not of me specifically, but of something familiar. Another broken thing. Another soul barely holding itself together. Then his chief advisor whispers something urgent in his ear, and the moment shatters. I wrench my gaze away, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. My hands shake as I grip the leather cord at my throat. That look, it felt like he could see straight through my skin to the damaged, dangerous thing underneath. I turn and slip through the servants' entrance before the ceremony concludes. Before I have to watch the last Omega be chosen while I remain invisible. Before anyone can see the tears threatening to spill. The autumn night is cold and sharp, filled with the scent of wood smoke and dying leaves. I don't stop walking until the warm lights of the grand hall are distant stars behind me, and the familiar path to grandmother's cottage swallows me in blessed darkness. The cottage smells like dried sage and old memories. I bar the door, a habit born from 5 years of isolation, and light the oil lamps with practiced efficiency. The flames cast familiar shadows on walls I could navigate blind. Grandmother's voice lives in these walls, woven into every corner. I can almost hear her humming as she worked her herb garden, singing old pack songs as she kneaded bread, teaching me the ancient Omega melodies that were supposed to be my birthright. "You have a gift, little Rivka," she would say, her weathered hands guiding mine over the strings of her battered lute. "The old magic runs strong in our bloodline. Your voice will heal wounds that even the strongest medicine cannot touch." I move to the small altar, where her belongings remain untouched. Her lute with its mother-of-pearl inlay, her collection of song scrolls written in the old language, her journal filled with musical notations I can no longer bear to read. The official story is that my sonic magic manifested incorrectly due to lack of proper training. Grandmother died 2 months before my first heat, before she could complete my Omega song education. The new generation of healers don't practice the old ways anymore. They rely on herbs and potions, dismissing the ancient songs as superstitious folklore. But I know the truth that I've never spoken aloud. It wasn't lack of training that twisted my gift. It was grief. I was 17 when grandmother passed in her sleep, her heart simply stopping between one breath and the next. The loss hollowed me out, left me raw and aching. When my mother went into early labor 3 months later, when I heard her screams of pain echoing through our family cottage, something inside me broke open. I sang the healing song grandmother had taught me, the ancient melody meant to ease suffering and guide safe passage. But my grief poured into every note. My rage at the unfairness of death. My terror of losing another person I loved. My desperate, clawing need to make the pain stop, all of it channeled through my voice, in a wave of uncontrolled sonic force. The windows exploded outward. The roof beams cracked. Flames erupted from the oil lamps, as if fed by an invisible wind. And my baby brother, barely minutes old, his tiny heart still learning to beat the shockwave, stopped it completely. I tried to scream, to call for help, but my mother's terrified eyes stopped me. "Don't," she whispered, blood on her lips. "Don't make another sound." The pack healers arrived to chaos. They stabilized my mother, tried desperately to revive my brother, and through it all, I stood frozen, my hands clamped over my mouth, understanding with horrible clarity that my voice had become a weapon. The council's investigation was swift. Uncontrolled sonic manifestation resulting in structural damage and loss of life. The judgment. I was forbidden from ever singing again, from raising my voice above a whisper, from accessing any Omega song magic. One more incident would mean permanent exile. My father couldn't look at me after that. The accusation in his silence was louder than any words. My mother recovered physically, but retreated into a grief so profound that she barely acknowledged my existence. Within a year, they accepted positions in the northern holds as far from me as pack territory allowed. I've been alone ever since, living in grandmother's cottage by the council's generous mercy, working as a low-level records keeper in the pack archives, a ghost haunting the edges of pack life. I sink into grandmother's old rocking chair, pulling her worn quilt around my shoulders. It still smells faintly of the lavender she grew, of the wood smoke that always clung to her clothes. The lute catches the lamplight, its polished wood gleaming like a promise I can never keep. My fingers ache to touch it, to feel the strings beneath my hands, to let even one note escape. But I don't. I never do. The risk is too great. If my speaking voice could kill my brother, what could my singing voice destroy? Outside, the wind picks up, rattling the shutters. Through the small window, I can see the moon 3/4 full and climbing. In 3 days, it will be completely full. In 3 days, Alpha King Davos will be chained in the Moonrise Tower, while his wolf tries to tear him apart from the inside. I've never witnessed it personally. The council keeps the public far away during the king's transformations. But everyone knows. The whole pack holds its breath on full moon nights, waiting to see if this will be the month he doesn't survive. Waiting to see if the madness will finally consume him completely. They say it started after his fated mate died. She was killed by rogues, before he even met her, tracked down, and murdered specifically to weaken him, to fracture his wolf. Without the mate bond to anchor him, his wolf has been slowly fragmenting, becoming more feral with each passing moon. The greatest healers in the realm have tried to help him. Powerful Omegas have offered their soothing magic. Nothing works. The wolf recognizes no voice, accepts no comfort. It simply rages against the chains, howling its grief and fury until dawn. A king going mad, a kingdom without a Luna, a future crumbling one full moon at a time. And me, the cursed Omega whose voice destroys instead of heals. Sitting alone in a cottage filled with songs, I'll never sing. Grandmother would say this is exactly the kind of story the moon goddess loves, the impossible kind, where the broken pieces don't fit until they suddenly do. But grandmother believed in fairy tales and happy endings. I've learned to believe in survival and silence. The autumn pairing concludes the following evening, with a grand feast I'm not invited to attend. I hear about it the next morning in the archives, where whispered gossip flows as freely as ink. Every single Omega was chosen except, well, you know. Marissa, one of the junior archivists, deliberately doesn't look at me as she speaks to her friend. Even plain Odessa Greenbrook found a match. Her companion responds. A beta merchant from the southern quarters, but still. That's 27 pairings in one night. A record. Did you see the Alpha King? Marissa leans in, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. They say he stayed less than an hour, didn't even consider any of the presented Omegas. Well, after what happened to Sabine last month. Shh, we're not supposed to talk about that, but of course they do talk about it. Everyone does, in careful whispers when they think I'm not listening. Sabine Whitecrest, a powerful Omega from one of the oldest bloodlines, with healing magic so strong she could mend broken bones with her touch. The council had such high hopes for her. They'd arranged a private moon ritual, believing that her presence during the transformation might finally anchor the king's fractured wolf. Instead, the wolf broke through, spelled silver chains, and nearly killed her. She survived only because the king's loyal guards managed to drag her from the Moonrise Tower before his wolf could reach her. She left the capital the same night, refusing to speak about what she'd witnessed. After that, the whispers grew darker. Maybe the king is too far gone. Maybe there is no cure. Maybe the kingdom should start preparing for succession, for the possibility of a mad king who can no longer rule. I keep my head down and copy the provision records I've been assigned, my handwriting small and precise. Invisible. Safe. At midday, a runner arrives at the archives with an urgent message for the head archivist. I watch from my corner desk as Master Fenric reads the sealed letter, his weathered face creasing with concern. The king has requested all historical records related to Omega song magic, he announces to the room. Everything we have on the old healing traditions, the ancient practices, sonic manipulation. All of it to be compiled and delivered to the royal study by tomorrow morning. My hand freezes mid-word, ink dripping from my quill onto the parchment. That's going to be extensive, one of the senior archivists says. Most of those records are in the restricted section, written in the old tongue. Then we'll need someone who can read the old tongue. Master Fenric's eyes scan the room and land on me. Rivka, your grandmother taught you the ancient language, correct? Every head turns in my direction. I want to sink through the floor. Yes, Master Fenric. I whisper. She did. Good. You'll lead this project. Take Marissa and Corbin to assist with retrieval, but you'll handle the translation and compilation. He softens slightly. I know this touches on difficult subjects for you. But you're the only one here qualified for this work. I nod, not trusting my voice for more than that. The restricted section of the archives is housed in the oldest part of the building, where stone walls keep the temperature constant and spelled locks protect the most valuable or dangerous texts. Master Fenric provides the keys and a list of relevant catalog numbers. As Marissa and Corbin pull leather-bound volumes and scroll cases from the shelves, I begin the painstaking work of translation. The old tongue is musical in itself, each word carrying multiple meanings that shift based on context and intonation. Songs of Healing and Harm, a treatise on Omega Sonic Magic. The Moonsung Chronicles, Ancient Practices for Wolf-Bound Ailments. Resonance and Restoration, The Lost Art of Voice, Weaving. My grandmother's teachings come flooding back with each page I turn. The old ways weren't just about singing, they were about understanding that sound is vibration, that vibration is energy, that energy properly directed can heal or harm depending on the singer's intent and control. The Omegas of old were trained from childhood, learning to channel their emotions, to separate their personal pain from their healing purpose. They understood that a voice carrying grief would transfer grief. A voice carrying anger would inflame rather than soothe. I had none of that training when I sang over my mother's birthing bed. I had only raw, unfiltered anguish pouring through a gift I didn't understand. This is fascinating, Corbin says, reading over my shoulder. It says here that Omega Song magic was once the primary treatment for alpha wolf madness, that certain frequencies could actually soothe a fractured wolf consciousness. My pulse quickens. Which text? He shows me a crumbling manuscript titled, The Alpha's Lament, Remedies for Moon, Madness and Mate, Loss. I read with trembling hands. The ancient author describes cases of alphas who lost their fated mates before bonding exactly like King Davos. Their wolves, unable to process the severing of a bond that never fully formed, would fracture and frenzy. The remedy. An Omega singer trained in the moonfall cadence, a specific melodic pattern that mimics the frequency of mate bond energy. Sung during the full moon transformation, it could theoretically provide the anchor the wolf desperately seeks. But it requires perfect control, I whisper, reading further. Any emotional contamination in the singer's voice could worsen the madness instead of soothing it. The singer must be completely centered, emotionally neutral, technically flawless. Everything I'm not. Do you think that's why the king requested these records? Marissa asks quietly. Because he's looking for a cure? Maybe he's just desperate, Corbin says. Willing to try anything, even old superstitions. I don't correct him, don't tell him that these aren't superstitions. I've lived the proof that Omega Sonic magic is terrifyingly real. We work through the afternoon and into the evening, compiling a comprehensive report. I translate the key passages, creating a summary document that explains the theory and practice of sonic healing for wolf madness. As I write out the description of the moonfall cadence, my fingers remember the melody. Grandmother taught it to me when I was 12, making me practice the complicated pattern until I could sing it in my sleep. This one is special, little Rivka, she'd said. This is the song that calls lost wolves home. I'd had no idea what she meant then. I understand now, but understanding doesn't matter. I'm forbidden from singing. Even if I wanted to try, even if I were foolish enough to believe I could help, the council would never allow it. Not after what happened. Not after what my voice can do. The full moon rises on the third night after the pairing ceremony, and the entire capital holds its breath. I'm in grandmother's cottage, as far from the moonrise tower as pack territory allows, but I can still feel it, the electric tension in the air, the collective anxiety of thousands of wolves waiting to see if their king will survive another night. The archives delivered my compiled research to the royal study yesterday morning. I don't know if the king even read it, if any of those ancient remedies meant anything to him, or if he simply filed it away with all the other failed solutions. It doesn't matter. I've done my duty. Now I just need to get through this night like I get through every full moon, doors locked, windows shuttered, distracting myself with work until dawn. I'm cataloging grandmother's herb collection, making detailed notes about which plants are still viable and which have dried beyond usefulness, when I hear it, the howl. It's distant, coming from the direction of the royal district, but it carries on the wind with a force that makes every wolf in the capital freeze. This isn't the normal sound of transformation. This is anguish given voice, rage and grief and madness woven into a single reality-shaking sound. The Alpha King's wolf is breaking. I try to ignore it. Try to focus on my notes about lavender preservation. But the howling continues. It's not constant, it comes in waves, each one more desperate than the last. Between the howls, I hear other sounds that make my blood run cold. The screech of metal being torn, shouts of alarm, the crack of something heavy splintering. He's breaking free. The thought is ice in my veins. If his wolf escapes the Moonrise Tower in full frenzy, it will be catastrophic. A mad alpha in the middle of the capital, unstoppable, uncontrollable. A frantic pounding on my door makes me jump so hard I knock over my ink pot. Rivka Ashenmore. The voice is urgent, authoritative. Open in the name of the crown. My hands shake as I unbar the door. Two of the king's guards stand on my threshold, both looking terrified and desperate. I recognize one Commander Halvik, head of the royal security. His formal armor is scratched and dented, and there's blood on his sleeve. You need to come with us, he says without preamble. Now. What? Why? I don't. The king read your research. All of it. He wants to try the moonfall cadence. The world tilts. No, I can't. I'm forbidden. The council's prohibition is hereby suspended by royal decree. He thrusts a sealed parchment at me, official, bearing the king's personal seal. He's breaking through the reinforced chains. We've lost 3 guards already trying to contain him. You're our last option. You don't understand. My voice cracks, rising above the careful whisper I've maintained for 5 years. My voice doesn't heal. It destroys. I'll make it worse. Another howl splits the night, closer this time. Through the trees, I can see an orange glow fire, coming from the direction of the royal district. He's already dying, Commander Halvik says bluntly. His wolf is tearing him apart from the inside. If we do nothing, he'll be dead by dawn. You literally cannot make this worse. But I killed. The words stick in my throat. My brother. My voice killed my brother. The commander's expression softens just slightly. I know your story, Rivka. Everyone does. But that was untrained magic released in panic and grief. This is different. This is you, trained by your grandmother in the old ways, singing a specific remedy with purpose and preparation. He steps closer, his voice urgent. The king believes in you. He read your translations, saw how precise and knowledgeable they were. He specifically requested you. He doesn't know what he's asking. He knows exactly what he's asking. He's giving you the choice he doesn't have. Halvik's eyes bore into mine. Help him or watch him die. Those are the only options left. Through the open door, the night air carries another sound beneath the howling, the crack and groan of stone giving way. The Moonrise Tower is breaking. I think of those amber eyes in the grand hall, the exhausted, haunted look of someone barely holding on. Another broken thing, just like me. I think of grandmother's voice. Your gift will heal wounds that even the strongest medicine cannot touch. I think of 5 years of silence, of hiding, of believing I'm only capable of destruction, and I think of the choice facing me right now, safety in my cottage while a king tears himself apart, or courage in the face of every fear I've carried for 5 years. Grandmother would say this, is the moon goddess offering me a chance at redemption, or maybe it's just offering me a chance to fail catastrophically one more time. If I do this, I hear myself say, and it goes wrong if my voice makes it worse, if people die. Then it's on the king's orders, not your conscience. Halvik interrupts. You'll be acting under royal protection. No council prohibition, no exile, no punishment. That's his decree. My hands find the leather cord at my throat. Grandmother's gift. Her faith in me made tangible. I'll need my grandmother's lute, I whisper, and 5 minutes to prepare. The relief on Halvik's face is profound. You have 3. I grab the lute from its resting place on the altar, my fingers trembling as they close around the neck. It's been 5 years since I've held it. The weight is familiar, grounding. I also grab grandmother's journal, flipping to the page where she notated the moonfall cadence in meticulous detail. I've sung it hundreds of times in practice, but I need the security of having it with me. Let's go, I say, stepping out into the night that smells of smoke and approaching disaster. The guards have horses waiting. I've never been comfortable riding, but there's no time for walking. Commander Halvik pulls me up behind him, and we ride hard toward the royal district. The city is chaos. People crowd the streets, staring toward the Moonrise Tower, where flames lick from broken windows and the sound of destruction echoes into the night. The tower itself, a massive stone structure built specifically to contain a mad alpha, has a visible crack running up one side. He's contained for now, Halvik shouts over the pounding hooves. But the spelled chains won't hold much longer. We're running out of time. We skid to a stop at the tower's base. More guards wait there, including members of the council looking furious and terrified in equal measure. This is madness, Councillor Breck shouts as I dismount. You're bringing the cursed Omega here? She'll bring down the entire tower. She's here on the king's direct order, Halvik snaps back. Stand aside. We'll all be killed. Her voice is a weapon, not a cure. Then you're free to leave. A new voice cuts through the argument. I turn and see the king's chief advisor, Lord Cassian, descending the tower steps. His usually immaculate appearance is disheveled, his face ashen. The king gave explicit instructions before the transformation. If conventional methods failed, Rivka Ashenmoor was to be brought here to attempt the moonfall cadence. Anyone who interferes will answer to him personally, assuming he survives. The council members step back, though their expressions promise this isn't over. He's in the main chamber, Cassian tells me quietly, chained with spelled silver at anchor points throughout the room. The chains are weakening, but they'll hold a few minutes longer. He meets my eyes. I pray your grandmother's training was thorough, because we're betting the kingdom on it. No pressure then. The tower entrance looms before me, heavy iron doors scorched black and radiating heat. Beyond those doors is a mad alpha who could kill me in seconds. Beyond those doors is my chance to prove that my voice can heal instead of harm, or my chance to fail spectacularly and doom us all. I clutch the lute tighter, feeling the strings press into my palm. Take me to him, I say, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. Lord Cassian nods grimly and leads me inside. The Moonrise Tower's interior is designed for one purpose: containment. The walls are 3 feet of solid stone reinforced with spelled silver. The main chamber is circular, with a domed ceiling and no windows. Iron chains as thick as my wrist are bolted to anchor points around the room's perimeter, all converging on the center where my breath stops. The wolf is massive, larger than any wolf I've ever seen, his coat a deep charcoal gray that seems to absorb the torchlight. But it's not his size that freezes me in place. It's his eyes. Amber, but wrong. Fractured. Like looking at a shattered mirror where pieces of consciousness flicker and disappear. Sometimes I see intelligence there, sometimes just blank animal fury. He's chained at all 4 legs and around his massive neck. The spelled silver should be burning him, keeping him subdued, but he's straining against the restraints with a strength that makes the anchor bolts groan. Blood mats his fur where the chains have cut deep. He's hurting himself trying to break free. When he sees me, a growl rumbles through the chamber so deep I feel it in my bones. The chains will hold for perhaps 10 more minutes, Lord Cassian says from the doorway. After that, he doesn't finish. He doesn't need to. You should leave, I tell him, if this goes wrong. I've served House Ironfang for 30 years, he interrupts quietly. I'll not abandon my king now. I'll be just outside the door. Then I'm alone with a monster that used to be a man. The wolf's attention is fixed entirely on me, his lips pulled back from fangs that could tear me apart. Every instinct screams at me to run, but I force my feet to move forward, step by careful step. Your Majesty, I say softly, using the careful whisper I've perfected over 5 years. I'm Rivka. I'm here to help you. A snarl is his only response. I set grandmother's journal on the floor where I can see it, then settle myself cross-legged just out of his reach. The lute feels both familiar and foreign in my hands. 5 years since I've played. 5 years since I've sung. My fingers find the strings, and even that small sound makes the wolf's ears flatten. Not aggressive, something else. Attention. Focus. I'm going to play something for you, I whisper. A song my grandmother taught me. It's very old, from a time when omegas used their voices to heal instead of... I stop myself. My own pain has no place here. Just listen. That's all you have to do. I check the journal one more time, though I've memorized every note. The moonfall cadence is complicated, a melody that rises and falls in specific patterns meant to mimic the energy of a mate bond. Grandmother said it was like creating a phantom anchor, giving the fractured wolf something to hold on to. But it only works if the singer can maintain perfect emotional neutrality. Any personal feeling bleeding into the notes could distort the frequency, turning medicine into poison. Can I do that? Can I separate my fear, my grief, my 5 years of guilt and silence from the song itself? I don't know. But I'm out of time to doubt. My fingers begin to pluck the opening sequence. The notes fill the chamber, clear and precise. The wolf's growling quiets slightly. His fractured eyes track my hands on the strings. Then I open my mouth and sing. The first note that emerges is rusty, uncertain. 5 years of silence have weakened my voice. But the muscle memory is there. And the second note is stronger. The third stronger still. The moonfall cadence is unlike any other melody. It doesn't follow conventional musical patterns. Instead, it spirals rising frequencies that peak and fall, creating a rhythm that pulses like a heartbeat. Like a bond. The wolf's struggling slows. His head tilts, confusion replacing some of the madness in those fractured amber eyes. I sing the first verse, focusing entirely on technical precision. Hit each note exactly. Maintain the rhythm. Don't think about the past. Don't think about failure. Just sing. Something shifts in the chamber. The air itself seems to resonate with the melody, creating harmonics I'm not producing. The spelled silver in the chains begins to glow faintly, not with containment magic, but with something else. Recognition. The wolf's ears swivel forward. He's listening. I move into the second verse, and this is where the cadence becomes truly complex. The melody splits. I'm singing one line while plucking a counter melody on the lute, creating a layered effect that shouldn't be possible for a single person but somehow is. Grandmother spent months teaching me this, making me practice until my fingers bled and my voice went hoarse. When you sing the moonfall, she'd said, you become both sides of the bond. You are the call and the answer. The question and the reply. The wolf has stopped straining against the chains entirely now. He's sitting, his massive body still, his fractured eyes fixed on me with an intensity that should be terrifying but somehow isn't. I can see the madness still there, flickers of rage and grief, warring with something else. Confusion. Hope? It's like watching someone drowning, occasionally breaking the surface, before being pulled under again. The song demands I go deeper. The third verse requires me to drop my voice to its lowest register, while the lute climbs higher, another impossible duality that creates a resonance that makes my ribs vibrate. And here's where the danger lies. This is the verse where the singer must touch on grief, must acknowledge the loss that fractured the wolf in the first place, but without being consumed by it. Clinical grief, observed grief, not felt grief. I think of King Davos losing a mate he never met, a bond severed before it could form. The wolf inside him reaching for something that should exist but doesn't, the mental equivalent of a phantom limb. My voice carries that loss into the melody, but I keep it contained, keep it from becoming my own grief about my brother, my parents, my lost future. The wolf makes a sound I've never heard before, a whine, high and broken, not aggressive, anguished. He's responding to the song. It's working, but I can feel my control starting to slip. 5 years of suppressed emotion are pressing against the walls I've built. My grief wants to pour into this song. My guilt wants to contaminate these notes. I grip the lute harder, force my focus back to the technical. Count the beats, hit the intervals, don't feel, just perform. The fourth verse is the turning point. This is where the melody shifts from acknowledging loss to offering comfort. Where the phantom bond starts to feel real, starts to provide actual anchor. My voice climbs, reaching for the highest notes in my range. The lute provides a steady, grounding baseline, a heartbeat, a foundation. Together they create the sensation of safety, of not being alone. The wolf's eyes are changing. The fractures are still there, but they're stabilizing. Instead of chaotic shards, I can see them starting to align. Like watching broken glass piece itself back together. He takes a step toward me, the chains allowing just enough slack. Not aggressive, tentative. I hold his gaze while I sing, pouring every bit of grandmother's training into this moment. The melody wraps around us both, creating a space that feels separate from the stone chamber, from the capital beyond, from everything except this moment of connection. The fifth and final verse is the longest, a gradual descent from the emotional peak back to calm. It's the lullaby portion, the part that says, "You can rest now, you're safe, you're anchored." My voice softens, gentles, carrying that promise in every note. The lute's rhythm slows to match a resting heartbeat. The wolf's eyes drift half-closed. The madness hasn't disappeared entirely. I can still see it lurking in the depths, but it's contained now. Manageable. He's no longer drowning in it. He takes another step forward, then another, until he's close enough that I could touch him if I dared. I sing the final phrase, letting the note fade into silence gradually, carefully, ensuring there's no jarring end that might shatter the fragile calm. The last note dies away. The wolf and I stare at each other in the sudden quiet. Then, slowly, he lowers his massive head and rests it in my lap. The weight of him is enormous, but I don't move. I barely breathe. My hands, still holding the lute, are shaking with exhaustion and disbelief. It worked. My voice didn't destroy, it healed. A shuddering breath runs through the wolf's body. His eyes still amber, still fractured, but present, aware, look up at me with an expression of profound relief. "You're okay," I whisper, my speaking voice hoarse from singing. "You're going to be okay." He makes that broken whining sound again, and I realize he's crying. A mad alpha wolf, reduced to tears of exhaustion and gratitude. Without thinking, I set the lute aside and rest one hand on his massive head. His fur is coarse under my fingers, still matted with blood from the chains, but warm and real. "I've got you," I murmur, the same soothing words I once heard grandmother use with injured animals. "You're not alone anymore." We stay like that Omega and Alpha, Singer and Wolf, two broken things holding each other together until Lord Cassian cautiously opens the door. He freezes at the sight of us, his eyes going wide. The transformation will reverse at dawn. I tell him quietly, not wanting to disturb the fragile peace. He needs to rest until then, no more chains, they're hurting him, just let him sleep. "You calmed him," Cassian breathes, wonder and disbelief warring in his voice. "You actually calmed him." "For now," I say, because I'm not foolish enough to claim a permanent cure. I don't know if it will last past this moon. I don't know if... The wolf's head presses more firmly into my lap, a clear message. "Stop talking. Stay." Despite everything, the fear, the exhaustion, the uncertainty, I feel a smile tug at my lips. "I'll stay," I promise him, until dawn. Lord Cassian withdraws, leaving us in peace. And there, in a chamber designed for containment, I spend my first night in 5 years, using my voice not as a weapon, but as a bridge. Not destroying, but connecting. Grandmother was right after all. The gift was always there. I just needed a reason and the courage to use it. Dawn breaks soft and gold through the tower's reinforced windows. I'm still sitting against the cold stone wall, my legs numb from hours of supporting the wolf's weight, when the transformation begins. It's not violent like I expected. The massive wolf form simply dissolves. Like morning mist burning away in sunlight. Fur recedes, bones restructure, and within moments, there's a man in the space where the monster had been. King Davos, Iron Fang, in human form, unconscious and curled in my lap. I should move. This is profoundly inappropriate, an unmated Omega with the naked Alpha King sprawled across her. But I'm too exhausted to care about propriety, and he looks so much more peaceful than he did in the Great Hall that I can't bring myself to disturb him. His face, relaxed in sleep, is younger than I expected. The scars on his jaw are more visible now, 4 parallel lines that look like claw marks. His dark, bronze skin is marked with other scars too, a map of battles and survival written on his body. But it's his expression that catches me. Even unconscious, he looks less haunted. The deep lines of exhaustion around his eyes have softened. His breathing is slow and even. He's resting. Truly resting. Maybe for the first time in months. The door opens quietly, and Lord Cassian enters with a heavy cloak. He stops short when he sees us, then his weathered face softens into something almost like a smile. He hasn't slept through a transformation in 2 years, he says quietly, approaching with the cloak. Usually he wakes the moment the wolf recedes, already preparing for the next battle. He drapes the cloak over the king's unconscious form, preserving at least some modesty. "How do you feel?" he asks me. "Tired," I admit. My voice is completely raw from hours of singing. But good, I think. Is that strange? Not at all. Cassian settles onto the floor across from me, a lord of the realm sitting on cold stone without complaint. "You did something extraordinary last night. You gave him peace he hasn't known since his mate died." "The song worked better than I expected," I say, still half in disbelief. "But I don't know if it's a permanent solution. The next full moon is 4 weeks away. We'll worry about that when it comes." His eyes are shrewd, assessing. "The question is, are you willing to try again?" The weight of King Davos in my lap, the feel of his peaceful breathing against my leg, the memory of those fractured amber eyes finding wholeness. "Yes," I whisper. "If he wants me to, yes." "Good, because I suspect when he wakes, that will be his first question." As if summoned by our words, the king stirs. A low groan escapes him, and his eyes flutter open amber, whole, human. For a moment, he seems disoriented, those amber eyes unfocused. Then his gaze sharpens and locks on my face. "You," he says, his voice rough as gravel, "you stayed." "I promised I would," I reply. "Until dawn." He sits up slowly, wincing at what must be a full-body ache. The cloak pools around his waist. He seems unbothered by his state of undress, but I notice Lord Cassian diplomatically studying the ceiling. "I remember," Davos says, wonder coloring his voice. "I remember everything from last night. Usually the transformation is just blank. Rage and darkness, and nothing else. But last night, I remember your voice, your song. It was like..." He struggles for words, like being lost in a storm and suddenly seeing a light. "The moonfall cadence," I explain, my voice barely above a whisper. "It's an old Omega technique for calming fractured wolves. My grandmother taught me. I thought such things were myths." He's staring at me with an intensity that makes me acutely aware of our proximity, of the intimacy of having held him through the night. "I read your research, saw the theory, but I never believed." "Neither did I admit. I haven't sung in 5 years. I didn't know if I still could." "Why?" The question is gentle but direct. "Lord Cassian mentioned you were forbidden, but not why." And there it is, the moment where I have to confess my darkest shame to the man I just helped save. I take a breath and tell him. All of it. The night of my mother's labor. The uncontrolled sonic magic. My baby brother's death. The council's prohibition. 5 years of silence and isolation. He listens without interruption, his amber eyes never leaving my face. When I finish, the chamber is quiet, except for the distant sounds of the waking capital beyond the tower. "They told you that you were cursed," he finally says. "That your voice was a weapon." Was, I stumble over the words. What happened that night? Was an Omega's magic manifesting in grief and fear without proper training or control? His voice is firm, leaving no room for argument. Do you think I don't understand? My wolf killed 3 guards. During my first transformation after learning my mate was dead. Should I consider myself cursed? Should I have been exiled? That's different. You're the king. It's not different. He leans forward, and the intensity in his gaze pins me in place. We both experienced trauma that shattered our control. The difference is that you were punished for it, silenced, made to believe you were broken, while I was given healers, support, and endless chances to learn control. I've never thought of it that way, never allowed myself to see my failure as anything but my own fundamental flaw. Last night, Davos continues, you proved what your voice truly is, not a weapon, a bridge, a light in the dark. He pauses, and something vulnerable flickers across his face. You saved my life, Rivka Ashenmore. More than that, you gave me hope that I might not be lost to the madness after all. Tears burn in my eyes. 5 years of guilt and shame, and here is this powerful alpha telling me I'm not broken, that I never was. The next full moon, I managed to say, I'll need to sing for you again, and the one after that. I don't know if the effect will build over time or if... I'm not asking you to cure me, he interrupts gently. I'm asking if you'll help me survive. 1 moon at a time. That's all. No promises of permanent solutions. Just this. You and your grandmother's song, keeping the darkness at bay. It should feel like a burden, a sentence of obligation stretching into an uncertain future. Instead, it feels like purpose. Like my voice finally has a use beyond the destruction I've spent 5 years fearing. Yes, I say. I'll help you. His relief is palpable. Thank you. Lord Cassian clears his throat delicately. Perhaps we should relocate this discussion to somewhere with furniture and refreshments, and clothing? He addresses the king. Your Majesty, the council is demanding an audience. They're quite upset about the unconventional treatment method. Davos's expression hardens. They can wait. First, I want Miss Ashenmore settled in appropriate quarters, given access to whatever she needs, and formally appointed as Royal Omega Healer with all privileges that entails. Your Majesty, the council will object. The council, Davos says coldly, standing and wrapping the cloak around himself with regal dignity despite the circumstances, can lodge their objections directly, after I remind them that their approved methods nearly got me killed, while the Omega they forbade from using her voice saved my life. He offers me his hand to help me stand. My legs have gone numb from sitting so long, and I stumble. His grip steadies me, warm and strong. Can you walk? He asks with concern. Give me a moment. Everything's pins and needles. He doesn't release my hand, just holds it while I wait for sensation to return to my legs. It's such a small gesture, but after 5 years of isolation, of carefully maintained distance from everyone, the simple human contact feels monumental. I meant what I said, Davos tells me quietly, while Lord Cassian busies himself with summoning attendants. You're not cursed, Rivka. You never were. You're exactly what I needed, what the kingdom needed. I want to believe him. After last night, after feeling my voice heal instead of harm, I'm starting to. The next 3 weeks unfold like a dream I'm afraid to wake from. The council's objections are loud but ultimately toothless against the king's decree. I'm installed in a suite in the royal wing rooms larger than my entire cottage, with actual glass windows and a fireplace that doesn't smoke. Lord Cassian ensures I have everything I might need. New clothing befitting my new station, access to the royal library, and most importantly, complete freedom to come and go as I please. But the greatest gift is the music room. It's a small chamber tucked away in the older part of the palace, with perfect acoustics and walls lined with instruments from across the realm. Davos has it designated as my personal workspace, and I spend hours there each day, rebuilding my voice and my confidence. I practice the moonfall cadence until I can sing it in my sleep. I work through vocal exercises grandmother taught me, strengthening the parts that have weakened from disuse. I experiment with other healing songs from the old texts, learning their patterns and purposes. And Davos comes to listen. Not every day, but often enough that I start to expect the quiet knock on the door, the soft question of, "May I?" before he enters. He never demands my attention or my time. He simply sits. Sometimes he works on correspondence while I practice. Sometimes he just closes his eyes and listens. Once, I found him asleep in one of the chairs, his face peaceful in a way it never is during council meetings. We talk, in those hours. Not about the moon or the madness, but about everything else. I learn that he loves history, that he has a wicked sense of humor hidden beneath the royal gravity, that he takes his duties seriously, but sometimes resents the weight of them. He learns about my grandmother, about growing up on the edge of pack territory, about my love of old texts and obscure knowledge. He never once makes me feel small or insignificant. He listens to my whispered words as if they carry the same weight as any council member's proclamation. "Tell me about your mate," I ask him one afternoon, 3 weeks into this strange new life. "If that's not too painful." He's quiet for a long moment, staring out the window at the gardens below. "I never met her," he finally says. "Alara. That was her name. We were supposed to meet at the summit of Pax when I turned 25. She was traveling from the eastern reaches with her family." His jaw tightens. "Rogues ambushed their caravan 2 days before the summit. Killed everyone. The bond that should have formed between us, it was like a door that opened, and slammed shut in the same instant. My wolf felt it, the potential of her, and then the absence. I'm so sorry. The worst part is that I grieve for someone I never knew. How do you mourn a future that never existed? How do you miss someone who was only ever a possibility?" He looks at me, and there's such raw honesty in his eyes. The wolf doesn't understand. It just knows that its mate was there, and then wasn't. It's been trying to find her ever since, tearing me apart in the process. "The moonfall cadence," I say slowly, understanding clicking into place. "It works because it mimics the mate bond frequency. It's giving your wolf something to hold on to. Not a replacement, but an anchor, a temporary one." "You're saving me one moon at a time," he agrees. And I'm grateful beyond words. It's strange, I admit. I spent 5 years believing my voice could only destroy. Now it's the one thing standing between you and the madness. Not strange, perfect. He turns from the window, giving me his full attention. "You were meant for this, Rivka, meant to be here." The intensity in his gaze makes my breath catch. There's something building between us, a connection that goes beyond healer and patient, beyond Omega and Alpha. Something that feels dangerous and wonderful in equal measure. But I'm afraid to name it, afraid that acknowledging it might break the spell. The second full moon arrives too quickly. This time, I'm prepared. I've practiced every day. I know the cadence so well that my fingers find the notes on the lute without conscious thought. I'm not panicking, not operating on desperate hope. This time, I'm confident. The transformation is easier to watch, knowing what to expect. Davos chains himself in the Moonrise Tower chamber, Lord Cassian and the guards standing ready, and I take my position with the lute. When his wolf emerges, there's still madness in those fractured amber eyes. But this time, when I begin to sing, the recognition is immediate. The wolf knows me, knows my voice. The moonfall cadence flows from my lips like water, and the wolf settles almost immediately. The chains barely rattle. Within an hour, he's calm enough that Lord Cassian removes the restraints entirely. The wolf comes to me, rests his massive head in my lap, and I sing him through the night. At dawn, when Davos transforms back, he's smiling. "It's working," he says, his voice thick with emotion. "Rivka, it's actually working. The madness is quieter, not gone, but manageable." We establish a routine after that. Every full moon, I sing the moonfall cadence. Between moons, we spend hours together, sometimes in the music room, sometimes walking the palace gardens, sometimes just sitting in comfortable silence. The pack begins to accept me. The rumors shift from cursed Omega to the king's healer. It's not exactly warm acceptance, but it's better than exile. And through it all, the connection between Davos and me deepens. Every shared conversation, every comfortable silence, every moment his amber eyes find mine across a crowded room, it's building towards something. Something that terrifies and thrills me in equal measure. Because I'm starting to realize that this isn't just about healing anymore. I'm falling in love with the Alpha King. And I have no idea if he feels the same, or if I'm just the convenient solution to his problem. The tool he needs to survive. The uncertainty is its own kind of agony. But for now, I have purpose. I have a place. I have a voice that matters. For now, that's enough. The third full moon marks a turning point, not in Davos's healing, but in the council's patience. I'm in the music room, practicing a new harmony variation for the moonfall cadence, when Lord Cassian appears in the doorway. His expression is grim. The council has called an emergency session, he says without preamble. They're demanding your presence, my fingers still on the lute strings. Why? The treatment is working. The king's transformations have been peaceful for 2 months. That's precisely the problem. Cassian's mouth forms a thin line. Some members of the council are uncomfortable with how well it's working, and with how much time the king spends with you. The implication hits me like cold water. They think I'm manipulating him, using my voice for influence beyond healing. When? Now. I'm to escort you directly. I set down the lute with trembling hands. I've avoided the council chambers since my appointment as Royal Omega Healer, conducting all my duties through Lord Cassian's mediation. The thought of facing them directly makes my stomach churn. But I'm not the same terrified girl who fled the autumn pairing. I've found my voice literally and figuratively. If they want to challenge me, I'll face them. The council chamber is a circular room of dark wood and heavy tradition. 12 seats arranged in a semicircle, currently occupied by 12 stern-faced wolves who turn to regard me with varying degrees of hostility as I enter. Councillor Brecht, the same one who called me cursed on the night I first sang for Davos, rises from his seat. Miss Ashenmore, thank you for joining us. His tone suggests it wasn't really a request. We've called you here to discuss concerns about your arrangement with His Majesty. Concerns? I keep my voice level despite my racing heart. The king's condition has improved significantly. The transformations are controlled. He's suffered no injuries in 3 months. What concerns could you possibly have? The nature of your relationship, Counselor Vera speaks up from the left side. She's younger than Brecht, sharp-eyed and calculating. You spend hours alone with the king daily. You attend him during his most vulnerable moments. This level of intimacy is inappropriate for an unmated Omega. Heat floods my face. I'm his healer. That intimacy is necessary for the treatment. Is it? Brecht challenges. Or have you perhaps found a clever way to circumvent the council's original prohibition, using your voice not to heal, but to influence, to seduce? The accusation is so absurd I almost laugh. Almost. But the serious expressions around the room tell me they actually believe this. I start, but Vera cuts me off. You live in the royal wing. You dine at the king's table. You have his ear in private, when even we, his council, must request formal audiences. She leans forward. Tell us, Miss Ashenmore, what exactly do you and the king discuss during those long hours in the music room? Music, history, literature. My voice is rising above the careful whisper, sharpening with anger. We talk like two people who enjoy each other's company. Is that a crime? It is when one of those people is the king, and the other is an Omega with a documented history of dangerous, uncontrolled magic. Brecht snaps. You may have everyone else convinced that you're some kind of miracle healer, but I remember what your voice did 5 years ago. I remember the child you killed. The words hit like physical blows. I see it in his eyes. He wants me to break, to prove that I'm still the broken, dangerous thing they declared me to be. But I've held my dying brother in my arms. I've sung a mad king back to sanity. I've survived 5 years of exile and shame. I won't break for them. Yes, I say clearly, my voice ringing through the chamber. My voice killed my brother. It was an accident born of grief and lack of training. I've carried that guilt every day for 5 years. But I've also used that same voice to save your king's life 3 times now. To give him peace he hasn't known in years. To do what 20 trained healers before me could not. I take a step forward, and I see several council members flinch. You want to question my relationship with King Davos? Fine. Ask him. He'll tell you exactly what I am: his healer, his friend. Nothing more. The lie tastes bitter, because I want to be more, but that's not their business. But don't you dare suggest that I'm manipulating him. I've spent 5 years learning what my voice can do when I'm careful, when I'm trained, when I'm purposeful. I would never use it to harm him. Pretty words, Brecht says coldly. But the fact remains that the king is attached to you, dependent on you. What happens when he decides that attachment means more than it should? What happens when an unmated Omega, living in close quarters with an unmated Alpha, leads to the inevitable? Are you suggesting the king lacks self-control? Lord Cassian speaks for the first time, his voice sharp as a blade. Because that's a dangerous accusation, counselor. I'm suggesting that nature takes its course, and when it does, we'll have a situation. Brecht crosses his arms. The king needs a mate from a proper bloodline, someone politically advantageous, not some disgraced Omega with a tragic past and convenient magic. Before I can respond, the chamber doors slam open. King Davos stands in the doorway, and the temperature in the room drops 10 degrees. He's in full royal regalia, black leather and silver embroidery, the crown of House Ironfang on his brow. But it's his expression that makes everyone freeze. Amber eyes blazing with cold fury, jaw set in a way that promises consequences. Did I just hear my counsel? He says softly, each word precisely enunciated. Call my royal Omega healer a disgraced Omega with convenient magic? The silence is absolute. Davos steps into the room, and the sheer force of his alpha presence makes several council members bow their heads in instinctive submission. Let me be extraordinarily clear, he continues, his voice still soft but carrying the weight of absolute authority. Rivka Ashenmore saved my life. She continues to save my life every full moon. She has asked for nothing in return except the opportunity to use her gift for good. And you dare? His voice finally rises, filling the chamber with barely contained rage. You dare to summon her here and accuse her of manipulation? Of seduction? Your Majesty, Brecht stammers, we're merely concerned for... You're concerned with control, Davos cuts him off. You're uncomfortable because I'm making decisions without your approval. Because I found something that works. Something you didn't orchestrate or sanction. So you're trying to discredit it by attacking the one person who's actually helped me. He moves to stand beside me, a united front. Miss Ashenmore holds her position by my decree and will continue to do so. She has my complete trust and confidence. If any member of this council has a problem with that, you're welcome to tender your resignation. No one moves. Furthermore, Davos continues, you will treat her with the respect due to someone who serves the crown directly. That means no more secret meetings, no more accusations, no more questioning her integrity. Am I understood? A chorus of reluctant, yes. Your Majesty echoes through the chamber. Good. This session is adjourned. He turns to me, his expression softening. Rivka? Would you walk with me? I nod, not trusting my voice, and let him guide me from the chamber. We don't speak until we're in the gardens, far from the palace and any listening ears. The afternoon sun filters through the leaves, creating patterns of light and shadow on the stone path. I'm sorry, Davos finally says. I should have anticipated that they'd try something like this. They're afraid, I reply quietly. Afraid of change, afraid of losing influence. They're small-minded fools who can't see past tradition and politics. He stops walking, turning to face me fully. Rivka, I need you to know something. What you do for me, it's not just the cadence. It's not just keeping the wolf calm. It's... He struggles for words, and I watch emotions flicker across his face: frustration, vulnerability, something deeper. You make me feel human again, he finally says. After Alara died, after the madness took hold, I started to think of myself as just a problem to be solved, a king-shaped container for a broken wolf. But when I'm with you, talking about books or music or nothing at all, I remember who I was before all this, who I could still be. My heart is hammering so hard I'm sure he can hear it. The council isn't entirely wrong, he continues, and my stomach drops. I am attached to you. I am dependent on you, but not in the way they think. Not because you're manipulating me, or because the cadence has created some artificial bond. He steps closer, close enough that I have to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. I'm attached to you because you're brilliant and brave and kind. Because you understand what it's like to be judged for something beyond your control. Because when I'm at my absolute worst, you don't flinch, you just sing. Davos. His name is barely a whisper. I know I shouldn't say this. He continues. I know it's not fair to you, that you're here to heal me, and I'm muddying that relationship with my own feelings. But the council's accusation made me realize I can't keep pretending. I can't keep acting like what I feel for you is just gratitude. He reaches up, his hand cupping my cheek with infinite gentleness. I'm falling in love with you, Rivka Ashenmore. Have been since that first night when you stayed with me until dawn. And I needed you to know that before the next full moon, before anything else happens. You deserve to know the truth. I can't breathe. Can't think. Can only stare into those amber eyes and see absolute sincerity there. Say something, he pleads softly. Tell me I'm a fool. Tell me it's the cadence creating false feelings. Tell me anything. I rise up on my toes and kiss him. It's clumsy and desperate and perfect. His arms come around me, pulling me close, and for a moment the world reduces to this, his mouth on mine, his heartbeat against my chest, his warmth surrounding me. When we finally break apart, we're both breathing hard. I love you too, I whisper against his lips. I've been terrified to say it, terrified that it wasn't real, or wasn't allowed, or would ruin everything, but I love you. His answering smile is brilliant, transforming his usually serious face into something boyish and joyful. The council is going to lose their minds, he says, but he's laughing. They already think I've seduced you. Well, to be fair, you kind of have. With your voice and your mind and your absolutely devastating habit of understanding me better than I understand myself. I laugh, the sound bubbling up from someplace deep and genuinely happy. What do we do now? I ask. Now? He pulls me close again, resting his forehead against mine. Now we figure it out together. The council, the moons, all of it, together. And standing there in the garden with the afternoon sun, warm on my skin, and the man I love, holding me like I'm precious, I believe him. We'll figure it out, together. The happiness lasts exactly 4 days. 4 perfect days where Davos and I navigate this new understanding between us. We're careful, no public displays, no obvious changes in behavior. But in private moments, in stolen touches and whispered conversations, we build something real. Then Councillor Brecht makes his move. I'm summoned to the council chambers again, but this time Davos is there too. Lord Cassian's face is grave as he meets us at the door. They've issued a formal challenge, he says quietly. I tried to block it, but they have the votes. What kind of challenge? Davos demands. They want to test Miss Ashenmore's abilities in a controlled environment. To prove that the cadence actually works, that it's not. Not what? I ask, though I already know. Not an unnatural bond being formed through magical manipulation. Brecht's voice comes from inside the chamber. Come in, both of you. Let's discuss this, like civilized wolves. The atmosphere in the council chamber is thick with tension. All 12 members are present, and I notice that they've split into clear factions, 5 sitting on Brecht's side, 4 on the opposite, 3 in the middle looking uncomfortable. The council has concerns, Brecht begins without preamble, about the nature of Miss Ashenmore's healing method. While we acknowledge that the king's transformations have been peaceful, we cannot rule out the possibility that this is due to an artificial bonding process, rather than genuine healing. The moonfall cadence is a recognized historical technique, I say, keeping my voice steady. It's documented in texts that predate any of us by centuries. Texts that also warn about the dangers of Omega song magic, creating false mate bonds. Counselor Vera counters. Texts that explicitly state such bonds can trap an alpha in a dependency that mimics but is not genuine affection. My blood runs cold. That's not what's happening. Then you won't object to proving it. Brecht leans forward. We propose a test. During the next full moon, you will sing the cadence as usual, but you will do so from a separate chamber, unable to see or physically interact with the king. If the magic is truly healing and not dependent on your presence or a developing bond, it should work regardless of proximity. Davos surges to his feet. Absolutely not. That's not how the treatment works. The cadence requires physical proximity, visual contact, and intimate setting. Brecht finishes. Exactly the elements required to forge an artificial bond. If Miss Ashenmore's magic is genuine healing, it should function through barriers. Sound carries. Magic carries. If it's real, distance shouldn't matter. He's twisting the truth. The cadence does require presence, not because of bonding, but because the wolf needs the anchor to be real, tangible, present. But explaining that will only feed into their narrative. And if I refuse? I ask. Then we petition the High Council of Pax to review your appointment and methods. That process could take months and would require the king to abstain from your treatment during the investigation. Vera's smile is cold. Can he survive months of transformations without you? It's a trap. Either I agree to their test and potentially fail, proving their point, or I refuse, and they force a lengthy investigation that achieves the same result: separation. I'll do it, I say before Davos can object. I'll take your test. Rivka, no. Davos starts, but I meet his eyes and try to communicate everything I can't say aloud. Trust me, I have to try. The next 3 weeks are torture. Davos is furious with the council, with the situation, with himself for not seeing this coming. We spend every available moment researching, trying to find a way to make the cadence work through barriers. The texts say the magic is in the frequency, I tell him, poring over grandmother's journal for the 100th time. If I can project my voice clearly enough, if the wolf can hear it properly, it should work. It has to work. And if it doesn't? His voice is raw. If the distance breaks the connection and I transform fully, then we'll know the council is right. That what we have is... I can't finish the sentence. Don't. He pulls me into his arms. Don't even think that. What we have is real, Rivka. It's not the cadence creating it. I loved you before I ever told you, before we ever kissed. The wolf calms for you because of the magic, yes, but I love you because of who you are. I know. I whisper against his chest. I know. But we have to prove it to them. We have to try. The full moon rises on a night that feels heavy with doom. The council has prepared the testing chambers, 2 rooms separated by a thick stone wall. Davos will be in the Moonrise Tower as usual, chained and guarded. I'll be in an adjacent chamber with a small window of spelled glass between us. I can see him. He can see me. But we cannot touch. Cannot be together. The theory is that my voice will carry through the spelled glass clearly enough for the cadence to work. The reality is that we're both terrified. Whatever happens, Davos tells me as the guards lead him to his chamber. Know that I love you, not because of magic, not because you're useful, but because you're you. I love you too, I say, my voice already shaking. I'll sing for you, I promise. They close the door between us, and suddenly he's visible only through the small window of spelled glass. I can see him being chained to the anchor points, can see the fear and trust warring in his amber eyes. Lord Cassian is with me, along with Councillor Brecht and 2 other council members as witnesses. Begin whenever you're ready, Brecht says, his tone suggesting he expects me to fail. I lift grandmother's lute, my fingers finding the strings through muscle memory alone. Through the window, I see the transformation beginning, Davos's human form shifting. Bones restructuring. Fur emerging. The wolf that emerges is already agitated. Without me physically present, without my scent and proximity, the anchor is weaker. I begin to sing. The moonfall cadence flows from my throat, technically perfect. Every note precise, every rhythm exact. My voice carries through the spelled glass, clearly I can hear it myself, can see the wolf's ears swivel toward the sound. But something's wrong. The wolf is listening, but the fractured look in his amber eyes isn't clearing. He's pacing, testing the chains, growling low in his throat. The madness is there, building, and my voice is keeping it at bay, but not healing it. I push more power into the song, drawing on every bit of training grandmother gave me. The melody fills the chamber, resonates off the stone walls. Through the glass, I see the wolf pause, his head tilting. For a moment, I think it's working. Then he throws his head back and howls a sound of such anguish and rage that it makes my voice falter. "Keep singing," Lord Cassian urges quietly. "Don't stop." I don't stop. I sing the cadence through to completion, then begin again, and again. For hours, I sing until my voice is raw, until my fingers bleed on the lute strings, until I'm hoarse and desperate, and through it all, the wolf paces and howls and strains against the chains. The madness doesn't break completely, the cadence is providing some relief, some anchor, but it's not enough. Not like it was when I could touch him, when he could rest his head in my lap and feel my presence as well as hear it. The council members take notes. Brecht looks grimly satisfied. Dawn comes eventually, and the transformation reverses. Davos returns to human form, and even through the spelled glass, I can see the devastation on his face. The night wasn't as bad as before I started treating him, but it was worse than the last 3 months combined. "It's not the same," he says hoarsely, and I don't know if he's talking to me or to the council. "It's not enough." Brecht steps forward. "The test proves our point. Miss Ashenmore's magic requires physical proximity to be fully effective. That level of dependency is consistent with artificial bonding, not pure healing magic." "That's not true," I protest, but my voice is barely a whisper now, destroyed from hours of singing. The cadence needs presence because the wolf needs a real anchor, not because... "We've made our decision." Brecht cuts me off. Effective immediately, Miss Ashenmore's position as Royal Omega Healer is suspended pending full investigation. You are prohibited from attending the king during transformations or from private meetings until the High Council of Pax completes their review. No. Davos's voice is flat, deadly. I forbid it. With respect, Your Majesty, you've already proven you cannot make objective decisions regarding Miss Ashenmore. The Council invokes our right of protective oversight. For your own safety and the kingdom's stability, we must insist on this separation. This is illegal. This is law. Vera interrupts. Ancient law that allows the council to protect a compromised king from potentially harmful influences. We're sorry, Your Majesty, but this is for your own good. I watch Davos struggle against the chains of tradition and law that bind him as surely as silver chains bound his wolf. He's a king. Yes, but even kings have limits to their power. How long? He asks through gritted teeth. The High Council meets in 6 weeks. Until then, Miss Ashenmore will return to her original cottage on Pack lands. She'll be permitted to work in the archives during the day, but will have no contact with you or the royal wing. 6 weeks. 6 full moons. I look at Davos through the spelled glass, and the anguish in his eyes mirrors my own. I'll survive it, he says, and I know he's lying. 6 weeks. We can survive 6 weeks. But we both know what months of transformations without the cadence did to him before. We both know that the madness, once given room to grow again, might not be so easily tamed the second time. They're separating us, and it might kill him. And there's nothing either of us can do to stop it. The cottage feels like a tomb. I've been back for 2 weeks, and every surface reminds me of who I was before the silent, isolated Omega, with no purpose beyond survival. Grandmother's things watch me from their shelves, silent witnesses to my failure. Because I did fail. The council was right about one thing. The cadence needs proximity. Without it, I'm just a singer with a pretty voice and a tragic past. During the day, I work in the archives as decreed. Marissa and Corbin are kind, but distant, clearly warned not to discuss the situation. Master Fenric gives me busy work cataloging texts. I've already cataloged, copying records that don't need copying. They're keeping me busy and isolated, making sure I have no opportunity to influence anyone. At night, I sit in grandmother's chair and try not to think about what's happening in the Moonrise Tower. Try not to imagine Davos transforming alone, the madness taking hold again, the progress we made slowly unraveling. The first full moon without me happens on my 16th night in exile. I don't sleep. I sit by the window and watch the moon rise, full and silver and merciless. Somewhere in the capital, Davos is transforming. Somewhere, he's facing the madness without my voice to anchor him. I clutch grandmother's lute and sing the moonfall cadence into the empty cottage. My voice is strong again after 2 weeks of rest, the notes clear and precise. But he can't hear me. The distance is too great, the connection severed. I sing anyway, because not singing feels like abandonment. At dawn, Lord Cassian arrives at my cottage. He looks like he hasn't slept in days. How bad? I ask before he can speak. Bad. His voice is heavy. Not as bad as before you came, but worse than the last 3 months. He broke 2 of the reinforced chains, injured 3 guards. It took 8 of us to restrain him until dawn. Guilt crashes over me in waves. I should have... You did everything you could. This isn't your failure, Rivka. It's the council's. He hands me a sealed letter. From the king. He wanted you to have this. My hands shake as I break the seal. Asterisk Rivka, asterisk asterisk. Don't blame yourself for what happened last night. The council engineered this outcome deliberately, and we both know it. They want to prove that I'm dependent on you so they can justify removing you permanently. Asterisk asterisk. I'm fighting them through proper channels, appeals, legal arguments, historical precedent. Lord Cassian is rallying the faction of council members who support us, but it's slow, and we're running out of time. Asterisk asterisk. The next full moon is in 4 weeks. If we can't overturn the council's decision by then, I need you to promise me something. Asterisk asterisk. Promise me you won't try to come to me. If you violate the council's order, they'll have grounds to exile you permanently, and I can't risk that. I can't risk losing you forever just to gain 1 night of peace. Asterisk asterisk. Stay safe, stay strong, and know that I love you not because of the cadence, not because of what you can do for me, but because you're the other half of my soul that I didn't know I was missing. Asterisk asterisk. Survive this, and we'll find a way through it together. Asterisk asterisk. Yours always. Davos Times. I read it 3 times, tears blurring the words, before folding it carefully and tucking it against my heart. He's wrong, I tell Cassian. Wrong to think I'll just sit here and watch him suffer. He's trying to protect you. I don't need protection. I need to be with him. I stand, decision crystallizing. The cadence works through proximity. Fine. Then I'll find a way to be close enough for it to work without being in the same room. Rivka. If you violate the council's order, then they'll exile me. But Davos will be alive. He'll be sane, and that's worth any price they can name. Cassian stares at me for a long moment, then a slow smile spreads across his weathered face. Your grandmother would be proud of you. My grandmother would tell me I'm being reckless. That too. He pulls out a map of the palace grounds. If you're determined to do this, let's at least be smart about it. We plan for 3 weeks. The Moonrise Tower, I learn, is not as isolated as the council wants everyone to believe. There's a service tunnel system beneath the palace old passages used for moving supplies and servants during sieges. 1 tunnel runs directly under the tower. The stone is thick, Cassian explains, but sound carries through the old foundations. If you were in the tunnel directly below the king's chamber, singing, upward, the cadence might reach him. It's not perfect proximity, but it's closer than separate buildings. It's also highly illegal, Cassian warns. If you're caught, I can't protect you. The king can't protect you. I know. You'll need to access the tunnel from outside the palace grounds to avoid guards. Then navigate by memory, since you can't carry a light, the glow would be visible through floor cracks. I'll memorize the route. Cassian studies me, his expression torn between admiration and concern. You love him that much? Enough to risk permanent exile? I love him enough to risk anything. I reply simply. He'd do the same for me. Yes, Cassian agrees quietly. He would. The night of the second full moon, I wait until the capital settles into uneasy sleep. Everyone knows to stay indoors during the king's transformations. It's safer that way. I slip through the dark streets wearing a plain cloak, just another shadow among shadows. The tunnel entrance is hidden in the old city walls, disguised as a drainage outlet. I squeeze through, pulling the grate closed behind me. The darkness is absolute. No light, no sound except my own breathing and the distant drip of water. I move forward slowly, one hand on the damp stone wall, counting paces like Cassian taught me. Asterisk. 50 paces forward, turn right at the junction. 70 paces to the second split, take the left tunnel. 100 paces straight to the chamber beneath the tower. Asterisk. The air grows colder, damper. I can smell minerals and age and earth. My heart pounds so loud, I'm sure the entire palace can hear it. Finally, I reach the spot. The ceiling is lower here, the stones older. I can feel the weight of the tower above me, can hear very faintly the sound of chains rattling. I settle onto the cold floor, grandmother's lute in my lap, and I wait. The transformation must be happening now. I can hear it, the sound of bones restructuring, the wolf's first howl echoing down through layers of stone. I begin to sing. The moonfall cadence rises from my throat, filling the tunnel with sound. The acoustics are strange down here, the notes bounce and amplify in unexpected ways, but that might work in my favor. The sound should carry upward, through the foundations, into the chamber above. I sing the first verse, then the second, pouring everything I have into the melody. My voice is strong tonight, fueled by desperation and love. Above me, the howling changes. The anguished rage diminishes, replaced by something else. Confusion. Recognition. He hears me. I keep singing, tears streaming down my face in the darkness. I can't see him, can't touch him, can't comfort him with my presence. But my voice can reach him, my voice can anchor him. The cadence flows through verse after verse. And gradually, so gradually, the sounds from above shift. The wolf's pacing slows. His growls quiet. By the fourth verse, I hear the heavy thud of his body settling onto stone. It's working. I sing through the night, my voice never faltering even as my fingers cramp on the lute strings and my back aches from sitting on cold stone. I sing until my throat is raw and my eyes burn from crying in the dark. At dawn, when I hear the transformation reverse, I finally let myself stop. The silence in the tunnel is profound. I sit there for a moment, trembling with exhaustion and relief. He made it through. The wolf was calm. The cadence worked even from this distance. I stumble back through the tunnels, using the return route Cassian drilled into my memory. By the time I emerge from the hidden entrance, the sun is rising pink and gold over the capital. I make it back to my cottage, collapse into bed, and sleep for 12 hours straight. Lord Cassian arrives the next evening with news. The transformation was better, he reports, relief evident in his voice. Not perfect, the king still fought the chains initially, but by midnight, he was calm. He slept through most of it. Good. I don't tell him how I know this. Better he has plausible deniability. But Cassian isn't stupid. He looks at me with knowing eyes. There are guards on the palace grounds who report everything to the council. If they catch wind that someone was in those tunnels, they won't, I say firmly. I was careful. No light, no tracks, no evidence. You can't do this every month for 4 more months, Rivka. Eventually, someone will notice. Eventually, you'll be caught. Then we need to win through proper channels before then. I lean forward. Where are we with the High Council review? Progressing, but slowly. They're examining historical precedent for Omega healers, the legitimacy of protective oversight laws, whether the Council overstepped their authority. He sighs. It's a mess of legal arguments and ancient traditions. Best case, we have a ruling in 6 weeks. Worst case, 3 months. 3 months. 3 more full moons. 3 more nights of sneaking through tunnels in the dark, hoping I'm not discovered. I can do it, I say. Whatever it takes. But even as I say it, I know the odds are against us. The Council isn't stupid either. They're watching. Waiting for me to make a mistake that will justify permanent exile. And with each passing moon, the chances of that mistake grow larger. The 3rd moon passes successfully me in the tunnels, the cadence carrying upward, Davos's wolf calming under my distant voice. But Lord Cassian's warning proves prophetic. Someone notices. I'm in the archives 4 days after the 3rd full moon when 2 council guards appear. Rivka Ashenmore, you're summoned to an emergency council session. Immediately. My stomach drops. On what grounds? That will be explained at the session. They escort me through the palace, not roughly, but firmly. No room for protest or escape. When we enter the council chamber, I see Davos is already there, his expression thunderous. Councillor Brecht stands at the center, holding a piece of parchment like it's a weapon. Miss Ashenmore, where were you on the night of the last full moon between the hours of sunset and dawn? My mind races. They know. Somehow, they know. In my cottage, I lie smoothly, alone, as required by your restrictions. Interesting. Brecht's smile is cold, because we have a sworn statement from Guardsman Pollux that he observed someone matching your description near the old city walls shortly before midnight. When he investigated, he found the drainage grate ajar, the entrance to the service tunnels that run beneath the palace. My blood turns to ice. Furthermore, Brecht continues, we conducted an inspection of those tunnels. We found this. He holds up a small piece of fabric, torn from a cloak matching the one registered in your cottage inventory. I'd caught my cloak on a sharp edge in the darkness. I'd torn free, not realizing I'd left evidence behind. You violated the Council's direct order, Brecht says triumphantly. You accessed restricted areas of the palace. You interfered with the king's supervised transformation, and you attempted to circumvent legal restrictions placed for His Majesty's own protection. I was helping him, I say, abandoning pretense. The cadence works through proximity. Without it, the madness returns. You know this. You designed your test to ensure I'd fail. We designed our test to determine the truth. Vera counters. And the truth is that you cannot help yourself. You violated explicit orders, broke palace law, and demonstrated that you're willing to do anything legal or not to maintain your influence over the king. It's not influence, it's healing. It's obsession. Brecht cuts me off. On both sides, the king cannot make rational decisions regarding you, and you cannot separate your personal feelings from your supposed duty. This council has seen enough. He turns to the full assembly of council members. I move that Rivka Ashenmore be immediately exiled from Packlands for violation of council orders and illegal entry to restricted palace areas. All in favor? 7 hands rise. 7 votes for my permanent exile. No! Davos surges to his feet. I forbid this. She saved my life. She's committed no crime except helping me. She's committed the crime of obsessive attachment, Brecht says bluntly. And so have you, Your Majesty, which is precisely why the Council must act. For the good of the kingdom, you need separation from this Omega. You need time to clear your head, to see that your feelings are a product of magical dependency, not genuine love. You're wrong, Davos says, his voice deadly quiet. What I feel for Rivka has nothing to do with magic and everything to do with who she is. She's brave and kind and brilliant, and I love her. Not because she sings for me, but because she's the only person who's ever seen me as more than just a king or a problem to solve. Then you're both compromised, Vera says, not unkindly. Your Majesty, you're a good king. But even good kings can be blinded by beautiful Omegas, with useful magic. Let her go. Exile her, move forward, and in time you'll see we were right. I'll abdicate first, Davos says flatly. The chamber goes silent. Even Brecht looks shocked. If you exile her, Davos continues, his voice carrying absolute conviction, then I'll renounce my crown and go with her. You can put a new king on the throne, someone more pliable, more willing to let you make all the decisions. But you won't separate us. Not for your politics, not for your fears, not for anything. You can't be serious, Brecht whispers. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. Davos turns to me, his amber eyes soft. I told you I love you. I meant it. You're worth more to me than a crown, a kingdom, or a throne. If they force me to choose, I choose you. My throat is too tight for words. He's offering to give up everything, his position, his pack, his entire life for me. You're proving our point, Vera says desperately. This is exactly the kind of irrational thinking we feared. The king would abdicate for an Omega he's known for 4 months. And before you finish that sentence, consider this. Maybe the irrational thing was believing I had to be alone forever just because my fated mate died. Maybe what Rivka and I have built on understanding and choice instead of predestined bonds is actually stronger than what fate would have given me. He steps to my side, taking my hand in his. I'm not saying the cadence didn't bring us together. It did. But what we built after that, that's real. That's choice. And I'm choosing her, Council. Every time, in every circumstance, I'm choosing her. For a long moment, the chamber is frozen in tableau. Then Lord Cassian stands from his seat. I've served this council for 30 years, he says quietly. I've watched kings come and go, watched policies change and traditions evolve. And in all that time, I've never seen a king more clear-headed and certain than King Davos is right now. He turns to face the other council members. We called Miss Ashenmore's magic dangerous and uncontrolled. But she's demonstrated nothing but control and care for 4 months. We said she was creating an artificial bond, but the king's feelings clearly predate any dependency. We've twisted every piece of evidence to fit our narrative because we're afraid of change. Cassian's voice grows stronger. The old ways say that fated mates are the only valid bonds. But the king's fated mate is dead. Are we really going to condemn him to eternal loneliness because he found love in an unexpected place? Are we so rigid that we'd rather have a mad, broken king who follows all the rules than a healthy, happy one who chose his own path? Murmurs ripple through the council. I see some members wavering, reconsidering. Furthermore, Cassian continues, if we exile Miss Ashenmore and the king abdicates, we don't just lose a healer, we lose our king. His brother is only 15, not ready to rule. We'd face a regency, political instability, and vulnerability to our enemies. All because we couldn't accept that sometimes love doesn't follow the prescribed format. Counselor Vera shifts uncomfortably. Lord Cassian, you raise valid points, but the law is clear. The law, Cassian interrupts, also includes provisions for royal marriages of choice when fated bonds are impossible. The king has every legal right to select a mate who isn't his predetermined fated one, especially when that predetermined fated one is deceased. Brecht's face is red with frustration. You're suggesting the king should mate the cursed Omega? Bind himself legally to someone who could destroy this entire palace with her voice if she loses control? I'm suggesting, Cassian says coldly, that you stop calling her cursed when she's proven nothing but mastery over her gift. And yes, I'm suggesting that if the king wishes to formalize his relationship with his chosen healer, that's his right. Davos's hand tightens on mine. We haven't discussed mating, haven't even allowed ourselves to think that far ahead. But hearing it spoken aloud, hearing Cassian defend not just my healing but our relationship, I would be honored. Davos says clearly, to take Rivka Ashenmore as my chosen mate and Luna, if she'll have me. Every eye in the chamber turns to me. My heart is pounding. This is everything I never dared dream of: acceptance, love, a place at the king's side, not as a tool but as a partner. But it's also a threat to everything the council believes in. Choosing me means choosing change, choosing a future that doesn't follow the old patterns. The council will never accept this. I say quietly. There will always be those who see me as cursed, as manipulative, as wrong. Let them, Davos says fiercely. Let them whisper and doubt and disapprove. As long as you're beside me, I don't care what they think. I look at the council members, some hostile, some uncertain, some beginning to look thoughtful. I think about grandmother's belief that compassion is the greatest magic. I think about the path that led me here, from cursed Omega to royal healer to possibly Luna. The council isn't the only voice that matters. I say, finding my own strength. The pack is more than its leadership. They've seen the king healthy and stable for 4 months. They've watched the transformations go from disasters to peaceful nights. They know something changed when I arrived. I turn to address the council directly, my voice steady and clear. You can exile me. You can call my magic dangerous and my love manipulative. But you can't erase what I've done for your king. And you can't force him to be alone just because my bloodline isn't politically advantageous or my past isn't perfect. Counselor Vera looks at me for a long moment, then sighs. A vote, she says. A formal vote on whether to accept the king's chosen mate, regardless of her unconventional background. If the council approves, Miss Ashenmore's exile is rescinded, and she may pursue a formal bonding with His Majesty. If we don't approve, she doesn't finish. All in favor of accepting the king's choice, Cassian calls. Hands rise. I count them with my heart in my throat. Lord Cassian. 4 other council members who've been quietly supportive. And then shockingly, Counselor Vera herself. 6 votes, not a majority, but close. Opposed? Cassian continues. 5 hands, including Breck's, 1 abstention. 6-5, with 1 abstention. It's not a clear mandate, but it's enough. The motion passes, Cassian says, relief flooding his face. The council recognizes the king's right to choose his mate. Miss Ashenmore, your exile is rescinded. Your position as Royal Omega Healer is restored. Davos pulls me into his arms, and I hear Breck's protest drowned out by my own heartbeat. We won. Against all odds, we actually won. The mating ceremony is scheduled for 2 weeks later, giving the pack time to adjust to the shocking news that their king is bonding with the formerly cursed Omega. The reaction is mixed. Some pack members are thrilled. They've watched the king's transformations become peaceful, seen him smile again after years of grim determination. They whisper that maybe love is better than fate, that maybe choosing your own path is stronger than following predestined bonds. Others are scandalized. The old families, the ones who put stock in bloodlines and tradition, mutter about inappropriate matches and dangerous precedents. I ignore them all. I spend the 2 weeks in a strange state of suspended joy, hardly believing this is real. Davos and I are no longer hiding our relationship. We walk the palace gardens openly, hands linked. We sit together at the high table during meals. We're building something real and acknowledged. Are you sure? I ask him one evening, a week before the ceremony. We're in the music room, my head resting on his shoulder as we watch the sunset. You're giving up any chance of finding another fated mate, of having that perfect bond. I had a fated mate, he interrupts gently. Fate took her from me before I could meet her. What you and I have? We built this. We chose this. That makes it stronger, not weaker. The council will always doubt. Some of them will. Some won't. That's the nature of leadership. He tilts my chin up, making me meet his eyes. But I don't need the council's approval to know what I feel. I love you, Rivka Ashenmore. You're fierce and brilliant, and you sing me back to sanity every full moon. You're exactly who I want beside me. The mating ceremony itself is a blend of old traditions and new necessity. Because I'm not his fated mate, we can't complete the magical bond that fated pairs share. Instead, we use the older, more deliberate form of bonding, a ritual that requires conscious choice and witnessed vows. The Great Hall is packed. Every ranking member of the pack is present, along with representatives from allied packs across the realm. I wear traditional Luna white, silver embroidery, tracing patterns of moon phases across the silk. Davos is in formal black, the crown of House Ironfang on his brow, looking every inch the Alpha King. But when his eyes find mine across the hall, the formality melts into something warm and real. The ceremony is conducted by the pack's high priestess, Elder Morna, a weathered Omega, older than anyone can remember, who serves the moon goddess and cares nothing for council politics. We gather to witness a choosing, she intones, her voice carrying through the hall. Not a fated bond, but a chosen one. Not what the stars ordained, but what two hearts have built. The ritual is beautiful and terrifying. We speak our vows publicly, declaring our choice before the pack and the goddess. I, Davos Ironfang, Alpha King of the Black Moon Pack, choose you, Rivka Ashenmore, as my mate and Luna. I choose your strength and your compassion. I choose your voice and your silence. I choose you in health and in madness, in peace and in chaos, for as long as we both draw breath. My turn. My voice shakes but holds. I, Rivka Ashenmore, choose you, Davos Ironfang, as my mate and king. I choose your courage and your vulnerability. I choose your wolf and your humanity. I choose you in darkness and in light, in transformation and in stillness, for as long as we both draw breath. Elder Morna binds our hands with a silver cord, the symbolic link that represents our chosen bond. The moon goddess recognizes what the heart chooses, she declares. Let no one separate what has been deliberately and joyfully joined. The pack erupts in howls of approval not universal, but loud enough that the dissenters are drowned out. Davos kisses me in front of the entire pack, sealing the bond with physical intimacy. It's chaste as royal kisses go, but the promise in it makes my knees weak. That night, in the private chambers we'll now share, the bond is completed in the oldest way, through intimacy, through vulnerability, through the deliberate choice to be fully known and fully accepted. Afterward, lying in his arms with the moonlight streaming through the windows, I feel something shift. Not the magical snap of a fated bond, but something equally powerful. A sense of rightness, of home. No regrets? Davos murmurs against my hair. Not a single one. Good, because you're stuck with me now. His voice is teasing, but there's real satisfaction underneath. My mate? My Luna? My Rivka. Your Rivka, I echo, testing the words. They fit perfectly. 6 months after the mating ceremony, the next full moon rises on a very different scene. I'm in the Moonrise Tower, but this time I'm not hidden in tunnels or separated by spelled glass. I'm here, in the chamber, by the king's side as his recognized mate and Luna. The council members who objected have either resigned or made their peace with the situation. New members, younger, more progressive, have taken their places. Lord Cassian is now prime counselor, his steady leadership guiding the pack through this transition. The transformation happens, as it always does. But now, with 6 months of regular cadence treatments and the anchor of our bond, the process is different. Davos's wolf emerges, massive and powerful, but the madness that once consumed him is barely a flicker now. The fractured amber eyes are whole, focused, aware. He sees me and immediately comes to rest his great head in my lap. No chains needed, no spelled silver, just trust. I sing the moonfall cadence, but I've adapted it over these months. The melody is shorter now, softer, more of a lullaby than a lifeline. The wolf doesn't need the full anchor anymore, he just needs the reminder that he's not alone. By midnight, he's sleeping peacefully, his massive body warm and solid against me. Lord Cassian checks on us once, sees the peaceful scene, and quietly withdraws with a satisfied smile. At dawn, the transformation reverses as gently as it came. Davos wakes in my arms, his first sight, my face, his first sensation, my touch. Good morning, I whisper. The best morning, he agrees, pulling me closer. How was he? Calm, peaceful. He went to sleep within an hour. Relief and joy flood his expression. It's working, not just managing the madness, but actually healing it. The cadence provides the anchor, but the bond, our bond, that's what's really healing you. I say softly, you're not reaching for a phantom mate anymore, You have a real one. He kisses me, slow and tender. I have everything I never knew I needed. We lie there as the sun rises, wrapped in each other and the peace we've built together. 6 months ago, I was the cursed Omega. No one wanted. Now I'm Luna, mate to a king who chose me not because fate demanded it, but because his heart did. The pack has come to accept me, some with genuine warmth, others with grudging respect. I've proven myself not just as a healer, but as someone who cares deeply about their welfare. I've established healing circles in the capital, teaching other Omegas the old songs grandmother taught me. Not everyone has the gift for sonic magic, but many have voices that can soothe, comfort, ease, pain. The old ways are being remembered, revived, woven back into pack life. Luna Rivka, a young Omega named Petra, bursts into the tower chamber, then stops short when she sees us still on the floor, Davos bare-chested and me in my nightdress. "Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to." "It's all right, Petra," I say, sitting up and smoothing my hair. "What is it?" "There's a messenger from the eastern reaches. An Omega, she says her alpha is suffering from moon madness, like the king used to. She's heard stories about your healing, and has traveled 3 weeks to ask for your help." My heart clenches. Another fractured wolf. Another alpha losing himself to grief and madness. Another pack watching their leader slip away. I look at Davos, and he's already nodding. "Go," he says simply. "Teach her the cadence. Give them what you gave me." "But the council?" "The council answers to me, and I'm telling you to go." He stands, offering me his hand. "You were never meant to save just one broken wolf, Rivka. You were meant to bring the old magic back to all of us." Tears prick my eyes. This is it, the true purpose grandmother always said I'd find. Not just healing one king, but spreading the knowledge, teaching others, ensuring that no alpha has to suffer alone in the dark. "I'll need to take grandmother's journal," I say, already planning. "And I should bring one of the younger Omegas who's shown aptitude for song magic. Petra. Actually, she has a beautiful voice." Petra's eyes go wide. "Me? You want me to come with you?" "If you're willing. This won't be easy. Teaching the cadence takes time, and not every case will respond as well as the kings did. But if you want to learn, if you want to help, yes." Petra practically bounces with excitement. "Yes, absolutely. When do we leave?" Davos laughs, the sound rich and warm. That's my Luna, already building her own legacy. I blush. "I'm just trying to help." "You're doing so much more than that." He pulls me close, speaking quietly so only I can hear. "You're changing the world, Rivka, one song at a time." The journey to the eastern reaches takes 2 weeks. Petra and I travel with an escort of guards, but I insist on staying in regular inns, eating in common rooms, talking with the people we meet. I'm not just a distant Luna in a palace, I'm someone who understands what it's like to be overlooked, to be afraid, to be broken. Word of our journey spreads faster than we travel. By the time we reach the eastern reaches, there's a small crowd gathered to meet us, not just the original messenger, but other Omegas with questions, other packs with alphas suffering various ailments. The alpha in question is named Torvin Stormclaw, and his story is heartbreakingly familiar. His fated mate died in childbirth along with their pup. He's been fragmenting for 6 months, each transformation worse than the last. His Omega sister, Lysa, the one who traveled to find me, is desperate and exhausted. "I've tried everything," she tells me, her voice breaking. "Every healer, every remedy. Nothing works. He's going to die, Luna Rivka. I can feel it." I take her hands in mine. The Moonfall cadence isn't a guaranteed cure. It worked for King Davos because I could provide consistent treatment every moon, and because I hesitate, then decide on honesty. Because we bonded. The cadence created a bridge, but our relationship provided the foundation. "I can teach you the song, but your brother will need more than just the magic. He'll need a reason to hold on." "He has me," Lysa says fiercely. "He has his pack. Isn't that enough?" "It might be. Every wolf is different." I squeeze her hands. "But you need to understand this is ancient magic, and it requires complete emotional control. If your fear or grief bleeds into the song, it could make things worse instead of better. Then teach me control, she says, please. I'll do whatever it takes. And so I do. For 3 weeks, I work with Lysa and 2 other Omegas from her pack who show aptitude for sonic magic. We practice the cadence until they can sing it in their sleep. I teach them the breathing techniques grandmother taught me. The visualization exercises that help separate personal emotion from healing intent. Petra is a natural teacher, her enthusiasm infectious. She works with the younger students while I focus on Lysa, who carries the weight of desperation that makes perfect control so difficult. You're trying too hard, I tell her gently, after another session where her voice wavered with barely contained fear. The cadence isn't about forcing calm, it's about offering a bridge. Your brother's wolf is drowning, you're not trying to drag him to shore, you're just showing him there's a rope he can grab if he chooses. But what if he doesn't grab it? The question is raw, terrified. Then you keep singing. Every moon you keep offering. Eventually, the wolf will understand that the bridge is real, that he can trust it. I pause. It took 3 months before King Davos's wolf fully calmed. Progress isn't always immediate. The next full moon, Lysa sings for her brother. I'm there in the chamber with her not to take over, but to support. Torvin's wolf is massive and terrifying, his amber eyes completely fractured, worse than Davos ever was. He's chained with spelled silver, but he's fighting with a strength born of absolute despair. Lysa's voice shakes on the first note. I can hear her fear contaminating the melody. But then Petra, standing in the doorway, begins to hum a supporting harmony, something we didn't plan, but it's perfect. The second voice gives Lysa something to anchor to, and her voice steadies. The moonfall cadence fills the chamber. Torvin's wolf doesn't calm immediately. He fights for hours, howling his anguish to the uncaring moon. But slowly, so slowly, the cadence begins to reach him. The fractured eyes flicker with moments of awareness. The struggling eases from frantic to merely restless. By dawn, he's not peaceful like Davos was, but he's alive. Whole. The transformation reverses, and Torvin wakes crying in his sister's arms. I heard you, he whispers hoarsely. I heard you, Lysa. I heard you calling me home. Lysa sobs, clutching him. I'll keep calling, every moon, as long as you need me to. I step back, giving them privacy. Petra finds my hand and squeezes it, her own eyes wet with tears. We did it, she breathes. We actually did it. You did it, I correct. That harmony, that was all you. That was brilliant. I just didn't want Lysa to be alone, Petra says. And I thought if 2 voices could create a bridge, maybe it would be stronger than one. An idea sparks in my mind. 2 voices. Multiple singers. What if the cadence could be adapted for group work? What if packs could support their alphas together, instead of placing all the burden on a single Omega? Petra, I say slowly, I think you just revolutionized Omega healing magic. We spend another 2 weeks in the Eastern Reaches, teaching group harmonics, showing the pack how multiple voices can work together to create a stronger anchor. It's not traditional, it's not how grandmother taught me, but it works. By the time we leave, Torvin has made it through 2 full moons with increasing stability. Lysa has a team of 5 Omegas who sing with her, each voice adding another thread to the bridge that's calling her brother back from madness. And word is spreading. Our return journey is interrupted constantly by messengers from other packs, other territories, all asking for help, for teaching, for hope. We can't help everyone, Petra says one evening as we make camp. There aren't enough of us. Not yet. I agree. But we can train others. We can create a network of healers who understand the old songs, who can spread this knowledge across the realm. A school? Petra's eyes light up. For Omega song magic? Why not? The old ways were nearly lost because people dismissed them as superstition, but we've proven they work. We've proven that voices can heal, that sound is power, that Omegas have gifts beyond what the modern world acknowledges. The idea takes root and grows. By the time we return to the capital, I have a proposal ready for the council. A formal academy for Omega healers, funded by the Crown, open to any Omega who shows aptitude for sonic magic regardless of their bloodline or pack standing. You want to use royal resources to train Omegas in ancient magic? Brecht says, because of course he's still on the council, still objecting to everything I propose. This is exactly the kind of frivolous... Frivolous? Davos cuts him off, his voice cold. Alpha Torvin Stormclaw of the Eastern Reaches would be dead without the training my mate provided. His pack would be unstable, vulnerable to enemies, facing a succession crisis. Instead, he's recovering. All because Rivka remembered what everyone else forgot. One success doesn't... We have reports from 6 different territories. Lord Cassian interrupts, laying out correspondence on the council table. All requesting training in the Moonfall cadence and related healing songs. All reporting alphas suffering from various forms of wolf madness. This isn't frivolous, Counselor. This is a crisis we didn't even know we had. The vote passes 8-3, with 1 abstention. The Academy of Ancient Song opens 6 months later in a renovated wing of the palace. We start with 12 students Omegas from across the realm who have shown aptitude for sonic magic but never had formal training. Petra is my co-teacher, her natural gift for harmony work, complementing my knowledge of the traditional songs. We teach the Moonfall cadence first, but we also explore other healing songs from Grandmother's Journal. Melodies for easing physical pain, for calming anxiety, for helping children sleep, for strengthening pack bonds. The students are hungry for this knowledge. So many of them are like, I was told their voices were just decorative. That Omega songs were just pretty entertainment, with no real power. Watching them discover their gifts, watching them grow in confidence and skill, it heals something in me that I didn't know was broken. Davos visits our classes sometimes, sitting quietly in the back and listening. The students are always nervous at first having the Alpha King observe their practice, but he has a way of putting them at ease. My mate's voice saved my life. He tells them during one visit, not because she's inherently powerful or from a special bloodline, but because she was trained and she practiced and she believed in the old magic when everyone else had forgotten it. What you're learning here, it's not just songs. It's a legacy. It's power that our ancestors understood and were reclaiming. One of the students, a shy Omega named Finn, raises his hand. Your Majesty, some people say that Omega magic is dangerous, that we shouldn't be taught these songs because we might lose control. Davos's expression turns serious. Any power can be dangerous without proper training. That's why this academy exists, not to suppress your gifts, but to teach you to wield them responsibly. The real danger is ignorance. The real danger is pretending these abilities don't exist, and then punishing Omegas when they manifest uncontrollably. He glances at me, and I know he's thinking about my brother, about the tragedy that could have been prevented if I'd had proper training from childhood. The old ways understood something we forgot, Davos continues. That Omega voices are meant to heal, to strengthen, to unite. You're not learning these songs to serve alphas. You're learning them to serve your packs, your families, yourselves. Never let anyone make you feel small or powerless. Your voices are gifts, and this academy is teaching you to use them. The students sit up straighter, pride replacing their earlier uncertainty. After class, Davos pulls me aside in the hallway. I have news, he says, his eyes bright with something that looks like barely contained excitement. The High Council of Pax has requested your presence at the annual summit. They want you to present on the revival of Omega Song magic, to encourage other territories, to establish similar training programs. My heart races. The summit? That's where all the ruling alphas gather. That's the most influential gathering in the realm, he finishes, and they want to hear from you. Specifically you, not me speaking on your behalf. They want to hear the Luna who revolutionized healing magic explain how she did it. I didn't revolutionize anything. I just remembered what grandmother taught me. You're doing it again, he says softly, cupping my face. Diminishing your own accomplishments. Rivka, you took knowledge that was dying and made it live again. You turned your greatest shame into your greatest strength. You've trained dozens of healers, who are now helping alphas across the realm. That's revolutionary, whether you want to admit it or not. I lean into his touch. What if I fail? What if they ask questions I can't answer? What if... Then you say I don't know, and you figure it out, he interrupts. Just like you did with me, just like you did with Torvin, just like you do with every challenge. He leans down, his forehead resting against mine. You don't have to be perfect, Rivka, you just have to be you. That's always been enough. The summit is held in neutral territory, a massive stone fortress built centuries ago specifically for interpack gatherings. Every ruling alpha in the realm is present, along with their lunas, key council members, and various other important wolves. I've never seen so much concentrated power in one place. The atmosphere is electric, intimidating, overwhelming. Davos stays close to my side, a steady presence, but he's made it clear that this presentation is mine. He'll support me, but he won't speak for me. When my name is called, I walk to the central platform with my heart hammering and grandmother's lute in my hands. Hundreds of eyes focus on me. I see curiosity, skepticism, and in some faces, outright hostility. The cursed Omega who somehow became Luna. The girl who killed her brother, now teaching others how to use their voices. I take a breath and begin to speak. 5 years ago, I believed my voice was a curse. I had accidentally killed my infant brother during an uncontrolled manifestation of sonic magic, and the council rightly forbade me from ever singing again. The murmurs start immediately, but I push through. I spent 5 years in silence, believing I was broken, dangerous, a mistake that needed to be contained. And I would have stayed that way if my king hadn't given me a chance to try something impossible. I look at Davos, standing in the front row, his amber eyes full of encouragement. King Davos was dying. His wolf was fragmenting from mate loss, tearing him apart every full moon. 20 trained healers had tried to help him and failed. I was his last desperate option, a forbidden Omega with dangerous magic and no formal training. I set the lute on a small table beside me and stepped forward. I should have failed. By every logical measure, I should have made things worse. But I didn't fail, because my grandmother, who died before she could complete my training, had given me one crucial gift. She'd taught me that Omega song magic isn't about power, it's about precision. It's not about forcing outcomes, it's about offering bridges. I begin to explain the moonfall cadence, breaking down the theory and practice in simple terms. I talk about frequency, about resonance, about how sound can create a phantom anchor for a wolf that's lost its mate bond. But I also talk about the failures, the struggles, the times when I almost gave up. The council tested my methods. I continue. They separated me from the king to prove that what we had was artificial, that my magic was creating false bonds. And they were partly right. The cadence does work better with proximity, but not because it creates artificial bonds. Because real healing requires connection. It requires presence. It requires the wolf to feel that the bridge is real, tangible, trustworthy. I pause, scanning the crowd. How many of you have alphas in your packs suffering from wolf madness? From mate loss? From trauma? From fracturing? Hands rise. Not all of them, but enough. More than I expected. The old healers understood something we've forgotten. They knew that Omega voices carry frequencies that can soothe fractured wolf consciousness. But they also knew it required training, discipline, emotional control. We stopped teaching these techniques because we dismissed them as superstition, because we decided that modern medicine was better. And for many ailments, modern medicine is better. But for wolf madness? For the specific kind of fracturing that happens when an alpha loses their mate or suffers profound trauma? The old songs work. I've proven it. My students have proven it. Alphas across the realm are recovering because we remembered what our grandmothers knew. One of the alphas in the crowd, a grizzled leader from the northern hold, stands. Luna Rivka, you speak of emotional control. But your own manifestation was uncontrolled. How can we trust that teaching these techniques won't create more tragedies like the one you caused? The question is blunt, painful, but fair. You can't, I say honestly. There's always risk when teaching powerful magic. But the greater risk is ignorance. I lost control because I had no training, no understanding of what I was capable of, no preparation for how grief would amplify my gift. If I'd been taught from childhood, if I'd understood how to separate my emotions from my healing intent, my brother would still be alive. My voice cracks on the last words. But I push through. The Academy doesn't just teach songs. We teach control, discipline, self-awareness. We teach students to recognize when they're too emotional to practice, when they need to step back, when they need support. We teach them that asking for help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. I pick up the lute again. I'd like to demonstrate, but I need a volunteer, an alpha, who's suffering from some form of wolf distress. It doesn't have to be full madness. Even anxiety, even nightmares about past battles, any kind of wolf consciousness disturbance. Silence, no one moves. Then, from the back of the hall, a young alpha stands. He can't be more than 25, his face scarred from what looks like a recent battle. My wolf hasn't slept peacefully since the western border conflict, he says quietly. Every night, I dream of the wolves we lost. Every transformation, my wolf is aggressive, restless. I'm afraid I'm fracturing. What's your name? I ask gently. Jarek Ashwood, Alpha of the Borderlands Pack. Come here, Jarek. He makes his way to the platform, and I can see the exhaustion in his eyes, the weight of command sitting heavy on young shoulders. I'm going to sing a calming verse from the Moonfall Cadence. I tell him and the watching crowd. Not the full sequence that's specifically for mate loss, fracturing, but a variation designed to ease wolf anxiety and promote peaceful rest. I sit, settling the lute in my lap, and begin to play. The melody is different from what I sang for Davos, softer, more gentle, without the complex harmonics. This is a lullaby for a tired wolf, a promise of safety after trauma. I sing, and I watch Jarek's eyes drift half-closed. His rigid posture relaxes. The tension that's clearly been holding him together for months begins to ease. The song is short, maybe 3 minutes. When I finish, Jarek stands there with tears streaming down his face. I can feel him, he whispers. My wolf. He's calm. How is he calm? Because you're safe here, I tell him. Because your wolf heard a voice that promised him he could rest, and he chose to believe it. I stand and address the crowd again. This isn't magic in the flashy sense. It's not dramatic or forceful. It's simply connection. A bridge between human consciousness and wolf consciousness, built with sound and intention and care. I look around the hall at hundreds of powerful wolves, all watching me with new understanding in their eyes. The old ways are not superstition. They're technology we forgot how to use. And I'm offering to teach anyone who wants to learn, not to serve me, not to serve King Davos, but to serve your own packs, to reclaim a legacy that belongs to all Omegas, not just the powerful ones or the ones with perfect bloodlines. The hall erupts in discussion. Voices overlapping as alphas turn to their advisors, to their lunas, to each other. The summit leader, an ancient alpha whose pack I don't even recognize, calls for order. The High Council will vote on whether to formally endorse the expansion of Omega Song magic training across the realm. All in favor? The vote is overwhelming. 37 alphas in favor, only 5 opposed, 3 abstentions. The motion passes, the ancient alpha declares. Luna Rivka Ashenmore, the High Council formally, recognizes the Academy of Ancient Song and encourages all packs to send qualified Omegas for training. Furthermore, we establish a fund to support the development of additional academies in willing territories. Davos is at my side in an instant, pulling me into his arms despite the formal setting. You did it, he breathes against my hair. You beautiful, brilliant, impossible woman, you actually did it. I'm shaking, overwhelmed by the enormity of what just happened. The old magic isn't just accepted, it's endorsed. Funded, encouraged. Grandmother would have been so proud. That night, in our temporary quarters at the fortress, Davos and I lie tangled together, still processing everything. Do you know what this means? He asks, his fingers tracing idle patterns on my shoulder. You've just changed the entire power structure of Omega Wolves. For centuries, Omegas have been valued primarily for bloodlines and political alliances. But now they have undeniable power that has nothing to do with who their parents were. That's terrifying, I admit. That's revolutionary, he counters. And long overdue. Some alphas are going to resist. Some will see trained omegas as threats. Let them. His voice turns hard. Any alpha who's threatened by their omegas having power is an alpha who shouldn't be leading. Real strength isn't about dominating those beneath you. It's about raising everyone up and becoming stronger together. I prop myself up on one elbow, looking down at him. When did you become so wise? When I mated a woman who taught me that weakness and strength aren't opposites. He pulls me down for a kiss. You were at your weakest when you saved me, exhausted, forbidden, terrified. But that weakness was actually strength. That vulnerability was actually power. You taught me that lesson, Rivka. I'm just finally learning it. 5 years later, the realm has transformed. There are now 12 academies of ancient song across the territories, each headed by one of my original students. Petra runs the Northern Academy, her gift for harmony work making her a legend among the younger Omegas. Finn, who was so shy when he first arrived, now leads the Eastern Academy with quiet confidence. The Moonfall cadence is no longer a forgotten relic, it's standard training for any Omega showing aptitude for healing magic. Wolf madness, while not eliminated, is manageable in most cases. Alphas who lose their mates no longer face inevitable fracturing. They have support, treatment, hope. The Academy in the capital has expanded beyond healing songs. We've recovered other forms of Omega song magic, songs that strengthen pack bonds, that help crops grow, that ease childbirth, that protect boundaries. The old knowledge is being systematically recovered, tested, taught. Not all of it works. Some of what we thought was magic turns out to be superstition after all, but enough works that Omega voices are now recognized as legitimate power. The social changes are even more profound. Omegas are no longer valued primarily for bloodlines. An Omega with strong song magic can command respect regardless of their parentage. Pairings are still arranged, but now skill and training are considered alongside political advantage. It's not perfect. There's still resistance, still prejudice, still alphas who resent the shift in power dynamics. But it's better. It's progress. Davos and I have found our rhythm. Every full moon, I sing for him, not because he needs it anymore, but because we both enjoy the ritual. His wolf is fully healed now, the fractures mended, the madness a distant memory, but he still rests his great head in my lap while I sing, still makes that contented rumbling sound, still sleeps peacefully through the night. During the day, we rule together. Davos handles the military and political alliances. I handle education and healing initiatives. The council, now fully reformed with members who support our vision, works with us instead of against us. We have arguments sometimes. Davos can be stubborn about tradition, and I can be reckless about reform. But we've learned to navigate our differences, to find compromises, to remember that we're partners building something together. On a crisp autumn evening, 5 years to the day after I first sang the Moonfall cadence, I find myself back in the music room, where so much of our relationship developed. Davos joins me, as he so often does, settling into his favorite chair, while I practice a new healing song one of my students discovered in an old text. I have news, he says when I pause between verses. I set down the lute. Good news or bad news? Good news. Extraordinary news, actually. He's trying to contain his excitement, but it's leaking through. The Western Territories want to host the next summit, and they want you to give the keynote address. Not about healing magic this time, about governance, about how we've restructured our council, how we've integrated Omega voices into decision-making, how we've created systems that honor both tradition and progress. I blink. They want me to speak about politics? I'm not a politician. You're a revolutionary who somehow convinced the most stubborn, tradition-bound alphas in the realm to completely restructure how they think about Omega power. If that's not political genius, I don't know what is. That's different, I was just trying to help. You're doing it again, he interrupts, laughing. Minimizing. Rivka, you've changed the realm. You've changed how omegas see themselves, how alphas see omegas, how we all think about power and purpose and potential. That's political. That's revolutionary. And they want you to explain how you did it so they can do it too. I sink into the chair across from him, overwhelmed. I don't know how I did it. I just kept trying to help people. I just kept teaching. I just kept believing that grandmother was right about compassion being the greatest magic. Exactly. He leans forward, taking my hands. That's what they need to hear. Not some complicated political theory. Just you, being honest about believing in compassion, about remembering the old ways, about giving people chances even when it seems impossible. I'm scared, I admit quietly. Good, you should be. This is terrifying. His smile is gentle, but you'll do it anyway, because that's who you are. You're the woman who sang for a mad king in a locked tower. You're the woman who defied the council to sneak through tunnels just to help me. You're the woman who stood in front of the High Council and admitted your worst failure because it was the truth. He pulls me over to sit in his lap, wrapping his arms around me. You're my mate, my Luna, my greatest blessing. And you're going to stand in front of those alphas and tell them the truth about power, that it's not about domination or bloodlines or ancient rights. It's about compassion, connection, and having the courage to believe broken things can heal. I rest my head against his chest, listening to his steady heartbeat. Will you come with me to the summit? Wild wolves couldn't keep me away. He presses a kiss to my hair. I love watching you change the world. It's my favorite thing. We sit there in comfortable silence, the autumn sun setting beyond the windows, painting the sky in shades of amber and gold. I think about the girl I was 5 years ago, silent, isolated, convinced she was cursed. I think about how terrified I was that night when the guards came to my cottage, how certain I was that I would fail. I think about every full moon since then, every student I've taught, every alpha whose wolf I've helped calm, every omega who's discovered their own power. And I think about the man holding me now, the king who saw past my shame to the gift underneath, who chose me when no one else would, who's spent 5 years, proving that chosen bonds can be just as powerful as fated ones. Davos? I say quietly. Thank you. For what? For believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself. For giving me a chance. For loving me, not despite my brokenness, but including it. He's quiet for a moment, and when he speaks, his voice is thick with emotion. Thank you for saving my life, for teaching me that madness can be healed, for showing me that the strongest bonds aren't the ones fate gives us, they're the ones we choose to build, day by day, moon by moon, moment by moment. The last rays of sunlight fade, and the first stars appear in the darkening sky. In the distance, I can hear the academy students singing evening harmonies, their voices weaving together in complicated patterns that would have been impossible a few years ago. The old magic, alive and growing, spreading across the realm like seeds on the wind. Tomorrow, I'll prepare for the summit. Tomorrow, I'll worry about speeches and politics and how to explain the inexplicable. But tonight, I'm just Rivka, the Omega, who found her voice. The healer who learned to bridge broken things. The woman who chose a king and was chosen in return. I've learned that the greatest magic isn't in the songs themselves. It's in the courage to sing them. It's in the compassion to offer bridges even when you're terrified. It's in the choice to see potential in broken things, in broken wolves, in broken omegas, in broken bonds, and to believe they can heal. My voice was never a curse. It was always a gift. I just needed to find someone worth singing for, and in the finding, I found myself.